Listen, as far as I'm concerned, if you are serious about building a brand, right? And I'm not talking about a brand that's just there for the sake of it. I mean a revenue generating brand that you can effectively develop and build to the point where you have your own intellectual property and you are able to generate revenue off of the back of your whole ecosystem, right? That is what we are here to do. That is the only thing that matters as far as building a brand is concerned, in my opinion. We don't have time to be dealing with just having a brand just for the sake of it, for vanity metrics, to make it seem good, but it's not converting to anything. We don't have time for that. What I'm going to talk about in this video is very simple. It's very straightforward. I won't even be too long. So please listen up because it's important. In this video, I'm going to talk about why you need to ensure that you have your domain name, right? You need to ensure that you have your domain name because it is incredibly important. And I was thinking back to it because I bought my domain name a few years ago. Like, when was it? Maybe 2016, maybe 2017, quite a while back. But funny enough, I only bought it because at the time that was when I was running my music blog. So with the music blog, I was thinking this needs to be as professional as feasibly possible, right? And I was running my blog using WordPress. So usually if you do not have a domain name, it will just be whatever the brand name is, .wordpress.co.uk or .com, one of those ones. And for me, I always wanted to be someone that sort of stood out. I didn't want to be deemed as doing something the rest of everyone else is doing, the rest of the people just doing their thing. I didn't resonate with that. I didn't want to be associated with sameness of being the same and doing the same stuff. Because I'm just like, what's the point? How are you going to stand out ultimately? So with that, I said to myself, you know what? I'm gonna buy the brand name. I'm gonna buy the brand name. And I bought the domain and yeah, I started using the domain as the actual website. And that was an interesting time as well because I didn't know much about the idea of domains at that time. I just knew about the idea of professionalism. That was something I always went by when I was younger, and I still go by it now, of course, don't get me wrong. But then it's funny how the idea of identity and the way that things need to be looking or how things need to look associated as being professional in my eyes during that time. And it's quite interesting because I suppose it goes to show why I'm doing this stuff now and why I'm so passionate about it because I've been doing it for a very long time, right? And just for context, apologies, I haven't introduced myself. If you don't know who I am already, I am Tariq Peters. I'm a brand authority strategist and I'm also an accredited PR practitioner. I've been in the industry for almost a decade now, and I work with B2B founders and advisors to build a level of brand authority, which is their personal brand multiplied by their business brand multiplied by their campaign brand. When you get all three brands aligned, right, you get to a level of brand authority that makes you more visible and credible to your desired target audience. And that would drive more leads, right? And that would turn into more clients and ultimately more revenue for your business. So if you are interested in all things personal branding, PR, marketing, AI, a bit of personal development here and there. But speaking of personal development, matter of fact, I have a new channel now. I have a new channel. I haven't done it yet, but by the time you're watching this video, you will see I have a new channel and I'm uploading. So this channel is going to be one video a day, as mentioned. That is the go-to. The other channel will be ad hoc. So I'll be doing a lot more sort of personal development, mindset, methodology, all that sort of stuff. I'll be having on that channel. And this channel, we focus solely on the personal branding aspect of things, AI, marketing, PR, all the things that can help you turn your brand into a revenue generating brand will be on this platform, this channel, and everything else regarding the personal development side and a bit of the behind the scenes of, you know, who I am, what I do, the things I genuinely enjoy outside of work, i.e., my interests and my hobbies, you'll see all on the second channel. So I will have that in the description box down below. And also my Substack is there as well, where I drop content there every single week. Right. Where were we? Domain names. So when I bought my domain name, so it was a case where it was really interesting because it just allowed that additional level of credibility when I was going to different events. I was meeting different people and I had my business card as well. And then the idea of people getting my business card and they can see the actual email and the name of everything. It looked crystal clean. It was epic. And for me, that's when I understood the importance of having a domain. So from there, that's that is something that led me to think, okay, I need to make sure that I have a domain for my name, right? So I have tariqpeters.co.uk and tariqpeters.com. And that leads to my website where I used to do a lot of the blog content on the website when I started blogging in 2024, right? August 2024. I still blog on my Substack, but I transitioned over from Substack from my website on the 1st of January. But the idea is simple. The whole idea of having a domain name, right, is to make sure that it aligns with your branding through and through, right? Everything that I've been working on over the years has aligned where if you Google my name, Tariq Peters, you will see everything there is to know about me. I've been saying this a lot of times because it's true. And it all comes down to the fact that I bought the domain name and I have the website. So as soon as you Google my name, the website is the first thing that appears, right? You see tariqpeters.co.uk. And I would extremely advise you to purchase both your .co.uk and your .com, right? And I will say it's for two reasons. Firstly, we are not strictly located in the UK as far as business is concerned. And if you think that's the case, then you are wrong. You need to start thinking bigger than the UK. You need to start thinking globally. So with that in mind, you need to ensure that you have your .com domain, right? Just so you covered all grounds, because you don't want to be in a position where you have your .co.uk domain, right? And you have your website or your blog or whatever you decide to do with it. And then someone else decides, maybe out of spite or maybe just because they may have the same name as you, sees that someone has taken the .co.uk and then they ultimately decide to take the .com. So then when people start to search and they start to maybe even go on the actual web URL, the actual address, and they type in your web address, and then they search the .co.uk version and you pop up, but then someone searches the .com version and it doesn't appear because someone else pops up, that can be a bit confusing. And you don't want to be in a position where you start to confuse your target audience in a position where you are building and establishing your brand. So please, if you decide you don't want to watch this any further and you got this far, purchase your .co.uk domain and your .com domain, right? That is the first and most important thing before I even continue. There's more gems to go, but if there's anything to take from it, that is the most important thing that I'll be sharing in this video, right? Just for context and just for honesty and transparency as well. So that is also one reason. The second reason is that when you have both domains, you can then decide that you are going to mirror your website to both domains. So, for example, my tariqpeters.co.uk one will bring you to my webpage, right? But then with the .com webpage, because I don't, or that domain, in fact, because I don't particularly have that domain actively for any other sort of platform, I've mirrored it. So then if you search or you use the URL and you search the .com, it will then always go and redirect itself to the .co.uk website. So it's in your best interest to do that. So then if there's a case where people ultimately decide to search your brand or search your website, some people may default to searching .co.uk, whereas other people, maybe more international, will be searching and they'll be using .com. So it's in your best interest to have both of them. So then either way, it mirrors to the same platform. So when it mirrors to the same platform, then they're able to see the same person and they're able to verify that this is you, because both websites match up and line up to showcase that you are that person. And that's what adds that level of credibility, as mentioned, because it just reinforces who you say you are, right? And it puts you in a great position knowing that you are more searchable and discoverable. And if we cover the idea of being discoverable, I talk about search engine optimization all the time, SEO, right? That's how you are then ranked high up in the search engine results with Google. So when you have a domain name and you actually have your website and it's active and it's live, more often than not, if you continue to use it, it will build up on the actual results, and then that can be positioned and placed at the top, right? And when you have that aligned with all your other platforms that align with your name, and it's also the very cohesive in that sense, it just makes it extremely beneficial and useful for you when it comes down to being able to showcase yourself when people decide to Google your name and they want to kind of see what you're about, right? So, you know what? I wasn't even planning to show you, but let me see if I can share my screen real quick, and then I can just give you a quick example of when my name is Googled, just for context. Let me move my thingy here. All right, so just for argument's sake, I'm just gonna search my name, right? And I'll just show you in real time. So Tariq Peters, that is the name. So just like I mentioned, tariqpeters.co.uk, right? Tariq Peters brand authority strategist. It's all there, right? And it's literally at the top of the page. It's at the top of the page. And it's only because I decided to buy the domain and I worked on actually then building up the reputation for the rankings. And it's because I've done a lot of blog content on there as well, which then reinforced the fact that it is actually an active platform and people are visiting the platform to read my content. So ultimately it just became more of a platform where, because a lot more people was watching it or going on it, sorry, to visit it, and a lot more people were redirected into the actual website, it was deemed a reputable page, which then meant that it was more higher up on the search engine results when you search my name, right? So that is one of the most important things, as well as the previous things I mentioned when it comes down to you building your brand. You need to have your website domains in check. And the last one I'm going to give you is the fact that once you have your website, right, once you have your domain, then you are then able to be in a position where you can develop the email address. And like I said, when it comes down to these things, I can be a bit nitpicky with it because I like the idea of it being very much professional and true to yourself and your brand, but then it also doesn't replicate something that is deemed something that can be done cheap or free or whatever the case. And as a business, like, you need to understand that when you are putting yourself out there as a business, it's in your best interest to be as professional and credible as possible. And when it means making sure that your domain website is all good to the point where your email address can be just as valuable and just as reputable when you hand over that business card and they see that it actually lines up and is cohesive with your brand, then that's incredibly important. So with that, you are then able to develop your custom domain name. So, my email is literally hello@tariqpeters.co.uk, right? And that's a direct email. It's not hello or my name at MSN or Yahoo or Outlook or whatever the case. It is my domain because I paid for my domain and it's part of my intellectual property and my ecosystem, right? So when you are then immersed in that and then you're seeing that everything then aligns with the domain name, it just adds that level of credibility just more as well. So that's it for this video. That's it for this video. I hope I have persuaded you to go and buy your domain name as soon as possible, because buying the domain name, right, it may not seem like a massive thing, but it's all about that long-term investment over time, right? And it's not necessarily expensive neither, right? So do yourself a good one, do yourself a good service, and make sure you purchase your domain name so you are able to protect it for when you are ready to use it, right? And then just for clarity and context before I end this video, you don't need to go about developing your website straight away when it comes down to building and developing your brand, right? That's a video for a whole nother day. But I would definitely advise you to buy your domain for the sense of security first and foremost before anything else. And then over time, when you have an understanding of what you would like to do with your domain and what you would like to do with your website and how that effectively ties in with your ecosystem and what you are able to do within your brand, then you start to then think about how you can actively use it, right? But in the meantime, before anyone decides to buy your domain name or they buy it before you even have a chance to develop it into something extraordinary, buy the domain and save yourself the stress, because trust me, as far as intellectual property is concerned, you need to look at yourself as intellectual property, and your name is high up there on that list. So make sure that you do everything in your power to make sure that you protect your name and protect your brand. So that's it for me. Please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and comment below if you have any questions, and comment below if you enjoyed the video as well, and if you want to see more content like this. And I will catch you tomorrow. Peace out. Look after yourself.